Welcome to Module 2. This one is all about restrictions. The best and worst thing about short-term rentals, and I'm excited to get started. Okay, again, remember that disclosure. Not a licensed attorney, accountant, advisor, licensed individual. I'm just sharing my experiences I've had with short-term rentals. I'm excited to share them with you. Okay, restrictions, hot topic with short-term rentals, Airbnb, air cash flow. I want to start by telling you, don't get scared. You can do it. I believe in you. You just have to play by the rules. So, are there restrictions? Yes.
It's important.
Sometimes
I want to say something to that, and I'm sure you're going to get way deeper into this, but I've noticed that there's a personality type, right?
Yes.
I was very much this way when I first started investing, and I'll use fix and flips as an example. I wanted to be the guy that slid under the radar, right? Don't pull permits. Don't, let's avoid the extra cost and time of pulling a permit, and let's just try to slide under the radar. But what I found is as I started to scale my real estate business, because something that I preach constantly is you're never going to become wealthy doing real estate on a small scale.
Yes.
It's a business. If you want to build true wealth, you can build it to the sky. I mean, there is no limit on what you can do in real estate. But to build wealth, you have to scale it.
Yeah.
And if your attitude going into it is, we're going to try to slide under the radar on, this Airbnb and, go in a restricted area on this one, and, that always blows up in your face.
Yeah.
And if you try to scale using that model, it's going to be a big explosion.
Yeah, you said it exactly right.
Just do it right. From the get-go, just do everything. Pull your permits, follow the rules when it comes to your air cash flow properties. That is so important. If you're gonna scale, you've got to do it right.
Yeah. And we're gonna dive into this a little bit later too, but do it as legal and ethical, and I will always encourage you to do that. That's what we do. But in a lot of these situations, we're ahead of legislature. It's tough to know exactly what is legal and ethical, and I'm going to walk you through exactly as much as I can tell you what we do. This is our experience, and that's what it is. It's about doing what's right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's how you're going to grow your business well and grow a business worth having. Just like you said. So yes, there are restrictions. Sometimes there are not. It all just depends on your property. Again, remember that disclosure. I can't tell you exactly which specific property is, what the regulations, what the permitting is. That's left up to the property owner, and that's your responsibility as an owner. I'm only going to be sharing the experience of others and myself as I've experienced, or as it's been shared with me regarding restrictions. So this is your master list on the right here. Does your country allow it? Does the state allow it? Does the county? Does the city? What about your zoning? HOA, neighbors? I will tell you off the bat, most countries, yes. Unless there's travel restrictions in and out of the country you're wanting to operate in, most countries are yes at this point. HOAs are the number one thing, the quickest way to shut you down. And HOAs change. You have to be nimble in this industry. Neighbors, I put neighbors on this slide because if you are doing everything legally, ethically, correct, permitted, inspected, everything perfect, if you have a neighbor that does not like what you do, it will be hard. You have guests at this property, and they are who you are trying to please. So if they're interacting with your guests in a negative manner, it will hurt your business. So I want to put that on there.
I've experienced that firsthand. That's so true. And usually, you're probably going to go into this, so I don't mean to skip ahead on your content here, but what I found was just having a conversation with the neighbors to set expectations ahead of time goes a long way.
Yes.
And they're usually excited to have a new property owner, and in some cases, they didn't like the previous owner, so they're excited to have someone new.
Yes.
And the fact that you're showing up on their doorstep saying, "Hey, I want to make sure that that you're happy and that I'm happy and that everyone's happy," that goes a long way.
Yes, and that's exactly what I would do. So here's a little extra golden nugget I don't have a slide for. Show up to your neighbor's house. Knock on the door, neighbor, whichever property, neighbor to the property you're wanting to use the air cash flow strategy on. Knock on the door and say, "Hey, I wanted to let you know I'm the landlord for right next door. it's a corporate service department or whatever it is, treehouse, whatever.
Sure.
And tell them what kind of people are going to be there. It's so easy to dislike or hate people you don't know anything about.
Right.
Who are these guys showing up at 10 o'clock at night? You know, you've heard this.
Absolutely.
But if you say, hey, they're just quiet families moving to the area, just needing a place to stay for a couple of weeks before their house is ready. Sometimes we get hospital stays, people having procedures or family members having procedures, business people that are just coming. Whatever fits your unit and your guests, tell them who will be there, that there'll be different cars. If you preface it, it will get you so much further. So there's your little bonus tip. But what do restrictions look like? You say, okay, well, I talked to somebody and I want to talk about the media. So the media is there to make money. And I'm good with that. But if you Google Airbnb, you will see horror story and this and that. Look at the end of the URL. So the URL is that web address at the top of the screen. Look at the end. Is it a .gov? Is it a .org? Or is it a .com? Is it content for content's sake? Is it attention grabbing,
Clickbait,
or
yeah.
Clickbait, or is it actual information? This is what actual information, and usually actual information is kind of ugly. I'm going to be honest. It's text heavy. It's hard to read. This is an example for Park City. Park City is a ski town in Utah. This is an example. There is a licensing process. This is exactly how you go through it. These are support phone numbers as you get stuck in your process. This is what you should be looking for. So you can Google short-term rental ordinance and then the city you're looking for. Those are the sorts of things you want to be Googling. Call the city you're in and ask them. Every person that answers the phone in the city is a specialist in different parts. You may have to call back, ask for somebody else, but you can find it. Or you can't. And this is where it gets sticky. I tried and I can't find restrictions or a permitting process. I don't know where to look. I did all the Googling. I called the city. They don't know what I'm talking about. This happens because we, as an industry in short-term rentals, are ahead of legislature. The laws haven't been created yet. It's
a new industry.
And best advice I have for you, do not wait. Do not wait for this all to blow over and it all to be ironed out. You want to be on the right side. You want to be grandfathered in if that's necessary. You want to be operating now. You want to be taking advantage now because it's a fairly easy market to enter now. 5 years from now, I do not anticipate it will be that way. It will be much harder to enter. And so start now, be good, be honest, do what is right. But this is an example of exactly what that looks like. And this is as an experience that shared with me. Hello again, it's Fred. We'll call him Fred. I contacted you a while ago about short-term rentals in Murray. Murray is in Utah. And you recommended that I call the city to make sure of the legality of the situation. Here's what I found out. I made direct contact with the Division of Community and Economic Development. They said short-term rentals were not permitted in any residential areas in the city on this ground. The zoning for residential doesn't include express permission for transient housing, which is what they classify as short-term rentals and therefore are excluded. They also said it wasn't legal in commercial zoning either. Hotels, motels have their own classification. It's potentially legal in mixed-use zoning with a special land code. They said it would be necessary to go to the Planning Commission to apply. I'm paraphrasing here, and to get a business license. It was interesting to hear from them that no one had ever gone through this process to start a short-term rental. Here's the kicker. When I asked them about all the short-term rentals currently operating in their city, which I can say I know myself there are many, I was told that they only look into them on a complaint basis. The state of Utah doesn't allow them to look on the listing service websites. Listing service websites are Airbnb, VRBO, HomeAway for locations of short-term rentals, and they don't have the resources to enforce the code all the time. I'm honestly not sure what to do at this point. I apologize for lengthy inquiry. Any advice you have? I can't advise on specific properties, but this experience is common. If you end up here, do not give up. This is common. This happens. And exactly what it said in here is they don't really know what to do with it yet. They don't have a specific place to put it. They're choosing to not include it because there's not express permission, there's not a definition in their city code anywhere for it. And this happens frequently. So you have to figure out, talk to your legal counsel, talk to the city. You do what's right for you in this situation. I can't advise on that, but this is common. If you run into this isn't, you're not the only one.
I can tell you what I would do. So if I invest a lot in Utah. I've had properties in Murray, both rentals and, fix and flips, short-term, long-term stuff. If this is what I saw, my attitude would be, because they said they only look into it on a complaint basis. And you correct me if you've got a different opinion here. But what I would do is I would go ahead and start the Airbnb process, start the short-term rental process, and then I would have a backup plan. That's so important for any real estate investing strategy, is to have a backup plan. I don't care if you're doing a fix and flip, a rental, a multifamily buy and hold, or an air cash flow property. Always have 2 or 3 exit strategies before you make any kind of financial commitment to a property. So my backup plan in this case would be, okay, so if I get shut down because of a complaint,
what am I going to do
with it? Or the law changes. Yeah, absolutely. What am I going to do with it? Well, my answer is long-term rentals. Yeah. That's my primary strategy anyway, is long-term rentals, because they're just kind of let them do their thing and the money shows up in the mailbox every month, right?
Yeah.
That's probably understating but still. So having a backup plan in a case like this, I think, is huge.
Yes, and that is a fantastic strategy, and that's something I would encourage you to do in this. So people ask, why are there listings in non-permitted areas? Just like Fred asked, right? Frequently cities, and this is across the U.S., I haven't done business out of the U.S. If you're working there, congrats, talk to me about it, reach out, let's talk. Frequently cities won't have the ability, the manpower to catch everyone, right? And I shouldn't say catch. It's anything. As a long-term rental, you are still expected to be at a health and safety code. You can't have, electrical wires that are live poking out of your walls, right? So cities will often only come out to a house short-term rental or long-term rental if there are complaints or health and safety concerns. So where we stand as a management company, we operate units in a variety of areas, zoning, cities, counties, HOAs. We will always encourage property owners to do what is legal and ethical. We are not responsible for keeping track of permitting on specific properties, legalities, restrictions as those change. That's something you should be responsible as an owner for. But personally, Erin and I will always support responsible and sustainable legislation and enforcement. So if there are rules and laws, we feel personally that it's best if they're known and enforced, which is why we're always spreading the word on legalities and on air cash flow, because we believe in this industry and we know how valuable it is to people. We are actually currently working with a consulting firm to do an inclusive study of short-term rentals in Utah specifically. We're gathering perspectives from data from hosts, owners, guests, neighbors, enforcers, lawmakers. So it's not about hiding or getting away with this or that. That's not the right mindset. You want to include, because short-term rentals have grown so quickly because they are clearly valuable and helping people. We provide housing in a way that the market hasn't before. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be respectful of everyone else involved in the industry as well. And just like Mitch mentioned earlier in this module, do what is right, do what is ethical, build a business that you can scale, and look to your community to share your voice and opinion. Thanks for hanging with us through Module 2. We definitely covered a lot about restrictions. Reach out to your community. We're excited to wrap up Module 2, and we will see you on the other side.